creating cultural awareness and understanding. This is Culture Clique. Culture Clique is written and produced by KQAL FM on the campus of Winona State University.
Today on Culture Clique, we are joined by Executive Director of Engage Winona, Marcia Ratliff. Engage Winona is a nonprofit organization that strives for civic action and social change. They ensure that everyone has access to a voice, power in the community, and social change. Now, joining me in the studio, I have Executive Director of Engage Winona, Marcia Ratliff.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Pleasure to be here. Yes, I want to thank you for doing this interview with us. So, first things first, what is Engage Winona to you?
Yeah, so that's a complicated question to unpack. We don't do something tangible like giving out food or building houses, right? But we do exist to drive equitable civic action and social change. So what that looks like on the ground is providing more opportunities for people to get involved in community leadership, and then giving them tools and resources and building their capacity to be community leaders. So we believe that our community is strongest when everyone can be involved and can be living up to their full potential. And so what we do is try to be in service to that and get the whole community involved in making a better future.
Well, can you tell me what some of your old projects were that you've done before, what you're currently doing, and how that affects the community?
Yeah, definitely. So we started in 2016 with a series of community conversations, basically asking community members, what do you want to see in Winona? What does the future of the community look like with your vision? And then out of that, the organization really sprung because people said, well, aren't you going to be here to help us? We want more of this. We want more people convening us. We want more resources. So that's really what led to the organization being founded. And so since 2017, we've been doing programming that really brings people together across sectors, across dividing lines, and host conversations, but then also do that skill building piece. And then in recent years, we've been doing a couple of major programs. One of them is Lived Experience Leaders, which started in 2020, and that's an awesome program that basically invests in people who have experienced something in their life that was a big challenge, whether it was experiencing homelessness or coming through addiction, coming out the other side. They want to make the community a better place. And so this program helps them plug in and find a way to do community leadership. And so since 2020, we've graduated over 20 people from the program, and they're all doing amazing work in the community and working on the issues.
Right. I was looking into your organization. I came across some of your workshops like creative storytelling. That, of course, has an impact on me because, obviously I love that. And is that more of like for that, specifically that storytelling section, is that more of a, tell your story kind of thing as you just described, or is it like encouraging creativity, like come up with something new? Like, it just intrigued me. What is that?
Yeah, totally. So basically storytelling is woven into everything we do. We know that stories are incredibly powerful when it comes to changing the community. It's one thing to look on paper and see numbers. It's another thing to hear someone's story of how they came through a challenge. And so for us, storytelling is about bringing the community with us so that we're bringing Winona forward together, not running ahead of Winona and leaving Winona behind. So the storytelling that we've been doing and hope to continue doing is really about people's own lived experiences and elevating them and amplifying their voices. So this year we did a series called Spillway that was 6 different features of people who are leading change in Winona, and they're coming from a variety of backgrounds, working in a variety of ways. And we really just work to spotlight them and their work and just show basically who's the next generation of community leaders in Winona.
All right. Well, out of curiosity, what are some of these changes that you've seen, at least recently? Everyone has their idea of where they want Winona to go. What have you heard?
Yeah. So that's part of the work that is really kind of a long-term thing. It's a systems change piece. So we know that we're not always going to see the results immediately.
Right.
But I do think that as we look back over the last 5 years that Engage Winona has been around, we really changed the expectation for what community engagement looks like and the culture of how that happens. So, for example, in some communities, you just have a public meeting at 6 p.m., a few people come. They're usually the same people who come every time.
Right.
And they tend to be the people who have time and resources to be there. And so, for many communities, that's the norm. And in Winona, since Engage Winona's been around, it's really not. And so we've broadened how people can be involved and where we show up. So we don't necessarily always expect people to come to us, but we've really been proactive in reaching out to people, going to them, showing up at fun community events where they happen to be already, and then saying, hey, would you like to give your input on a community issue? So that's really that cultural change that we're seeing, and really getting way more people involved than were previously.
Right. It seems like the goal of your organization, a big part is to give everyone a voice, to see where they want the future to go. And obviously, as you said, not everyone may have the time to dedicate to that, and maybe not everyone can go to the meetings. So it begs another question. Do you feel there's anyone who currently, as of now, doesn't have that voice heard or can't really express what they think or how they feel or what they want from Winona?
Certainly we still have work to do. Yeah. I think in some ways COVID and the political division that's going on right now is a piece of that.
Right.
Because it led a lot of people to check out and just say, I'm not going to be involved. It's too divisive, or I don't feel safe going out. I think, too, sometimes people have a self-selection bias where they say, I'm just not someone who gets involved in that. Or, it doesn't really impact me. Maybe
right.
I don't see the impact of that decision on my life. So what we're working to do is still continue to make it relevant and continue to have that door open, the invitation open, knowing that not everyone's going to be a junkie for, community politics or
right.
community issues, but just wanting that door to always be there.
Right, that's an amazing thing, especially in Winona, where it's not only the people who are here 24/7. You also have people who come in here just for college. Even people from Wisconsin and like myself, who doesn't live here in Winona. I can imagine your program being very important because despite the fact that I don't live here and most of the students at Winona State probably don't live here, we care about what happens here. We want to see where this place is going. Do you have an input from a lot of the students here at Winona State? Or
Definitely.
Is it mostly just community members who are here often?
Yeah, we do work with the campus quite a bit. And I would say you do live here. Even if you live here 9 months out of the year, you're living here for those 9 months. And so your opinion matters and your voice matters. So we do a lot of work with the campus. We partner with the social work department here, actually, to do a program called the Community Changemaker Lab. And so that's training social work students in our methods so that they can go out into the world with a good background in what community engagement looks like.
Really?
And then we also connect with students in a number of ways. If we're doing a community listening project, we're always including a student group. So recently we did a project for the Marine Art Museum and did a couple of listening sessions with student groups just to make sure that their voice was included too.
Well, that's amazing because especially the fact that you're working with students and helping prepare them for the world, your change doesn't stop at we give you the voice. It's we're going to actively try and help you get your voice out there, which is really something else. What do you think, besides COVID, besides the political division, what do you think stops the individual from really wanting to share their thoughts or really wanting to? Like, what's holding them back from taking advantage of this opportunity?
Yeah, a lot of things. I think a lot of barriers emerge whenever we get into spaces where, and this happens a lot in our culture, we value people with technical expertise, with advanced degrees, people who make a lot of money. Like there's all these sort of pedestals that people can be on. And so I think sometimes when someone doesn't have those letters behind their name or that degree or that fancy job, they feel like their voice matters less. Maybe they're not a homeowner, they're renting an apartment, so they feel like their voice doesn't matter because they're not paying property taxes or whatever it might be. So that's something that we try to help people get past and build the capacity to say, like, your lived experience is just as valuable as someone else's technical experience. And in many ways, because you're closer to that community issue, you've been through it, you are an expert in how to help people coming behind you. And you know more about it than someone who's been sitting behind a desk crunching spreadsheets. So really what we're trying to do is build up that capacity in that sense of your lived experience is lived expertise, and it's a gift that you can give back to your community.
Right. It's kind of like well, it's not necessarily a debate, but the difference between street smarts and book smarts. You can have all the writings and you can have all the books, as I tend to do, but you may not know how it actually works in the real world. You don't maybe not have the actual experience, and the thing is, both of those are very important for to make the process towards a great future. And it's true. People could have a whole doctorate in something, but that doesn't mean that they know the personal experiences of each individual that goes through it. And it's a very important part that you bring up, that people do need to see these parts of every issue or experience that we don't see when we see numbers on a page. In which case, I still do have the question, what changes have occurred from like your program providing it? Like what has shifted since your program started?
Yeah, definitely. A couple of really cool things have emerged from lived experience leaders specifically. We've had a couple people start their own nonprofits, which is really cool. And one of them is specifically focusing on helping people get their records expunged. So that's a process of court sealing your records so that it doesn't prevent you from getting employment or housing.
Right.
Because she had experienced that barrier and was like, this is not just. And so has been helping people in the community do that, and actually partnering with a WSU class in the process too. Right. So that's one of the really cool things that we've seen, is just like that lived experience leadership translating into now that impact is multiplied across the community and is touching dozens of people just from that one person. So that's one of them. We've also seen just incredible other things, more short-term things come up. Someone did a Spanish language mindfulness camp that brought kids together who were in Spanish immersion, along with people who spoke Spanish at home. And so that was really cool, bridging, and also gave them skills in mindfulness.
Right, it's a different experience than just sitting in the classroom. Something that I'm sure some people struggle with it. I personally don't. I actually prefer it. But I'm sure everyone can agree having that real-life experience with someone who's lived it is just something else. In which case, I'd have to ask you, you focus on the change in Winona, but do you extend outside of Winona? Do you extend to the rest of Minnesota or even parts of Wisconsin? Because those areas around us are not part of Winona, but they affect the Winonan community. Or do you just prefer to stay within the advancement of Winona and the individuals there and let them make their change across the world?
Our focus is definitely the area. So that includes Winona County. It includes if you live nearby in Wisconsin. Some of our projects, if we're working specifically with a contract partner, they may define the parameters of who they want to hear from. But in many cases, it's anyone who lives, works, or plays in Winona. And so that's people that are commuting for the day, that's kids, that's people coming here to shop on weekends and living in surrounding towns. So it's really a broad definition of the Winona area. At the same time, we have a staff of 2, and we know our capacity, and so we don't spread too far beyond that.
Did you say a staff of 2?
Yes.
Wow, that's incredible. So your entire organization has 2 employees.
That's correct.
Wow, that's something else, especially with everything you all have been doing. That's a shock. How do you handle it all?
You make a lot of lists. No, it's really a kind of a constant balancing act. I think throughout the year, we try to make sure that our plate is full enough, but not too full. And sometimes it's too full, and sometimes it's usually too full. So
right, because everyone wants to see change, and they see you have a way to do it, they're going to come to you.
Right, and we have a long list of things we wish we could do or want to do next, but are waiting for that right time and capacity to do. Yeah.
May I ask what those are?
Well, I think the storytelling piece is really something that we dove into in more depth in 2022 and then would like to continue to deepen in 23.
Of course.
Another area that we think would be really cool, but we're not ready for yet, is doing more with youth empowerment and engagement, like some kind of a lived experience leaders program, but for youth.
Right.
That involves storytelling and amplifying their voices. That would be so neat, but we're not there yet.
Well, what's the barrier that blocks you from getting there?
Often it's funding. So that's a piece of basically everything we do has to be funded somehow. And then the other piece of it is capacity. So those things go hand in hand. If you get more funding, you can build your capacity. So with growth, we're always trying to be mindful of when's the right time to grow. And, what can we do to best serve our community and not overextend either.
Right. And it's evident you want everyone to have a voice. If someone's listening right now and they want to hear, like, hey, I want to see something in the community, or there's something here in Winona that I want to see, how would they reach out to you?
Yeah, absolutely. So they can go to our website or find us on Facebook or Instagram. We also are available by email, or you can text us or give us a call. So it's engagewinona.org, and you'd find all of our contact info there.
And what should they expect when they reach out to you?
It kind of depends on what they're asking about.
All right.
If there's immediate opportunities for them to get involved in a community listening project, like right now we're partnering with the city doing engagement for the comprehensive plan. And so that project has been going on for about a year, and there's opportunities to give input there, so we might direct them in that direction. If they're an individual with an idea, they'd probably be more suited for a lived experience leaders program kind of spot. And that has an opening every summer. So we are currently in the beginning stages of the current cohort, so there's nothing right now.
Okay.
But we would refer them to, reach out in July.
Well, you mentioned the comprehensive project. What is that?
Yeah, so the City of Winona Comprehensive Plan is basically a 20-year overarching plan for the community. And it's kind of like a rudder on a ship. So it helps steer the direction of the community, and it's based on what the community's vision for its future would be. And it kind of guides city decision-making over the next couple of decades. And so cities typically make them every 15 or 20 years, and then use that as a guide for decisions. For example, investing in downtown Winona was a really big topic in the 2007 comprehensive plan, which is the previous draft. And so we saw incredible growth in the downtown in the time between that plan and this plan. And so with the current plan, it's really about listening to the community again. Things have changed since 2007.
Right.
So what are needs right now, and what do we need to look at in the next 20 years?
Well, so then there's not really a focus yet on where they want Winona to go. They're trying to figure that out right now.
It's pretty far along. So what's going to be coming up next with the plan is actually a draft.
Okay.
So that would be coming out to the community in the next couple of months here. And then people can see, based on a year's worth of work by community volunteers, by engagement from us and city staff, where we're at with that draft. And they can read it and give input.
Well, I'm sure many people would like to see and hear, like, where's my home leading to? In fact, we just had an artist come on, I believe, last week, who talked about our relationship to our environment. Of course, she focused more on the natural environment, but, our human-built society is a huge part of that as well. So and it's amazing how these kind of go hand in hand as well with that. The idea of, what's our relationship to our home? How do we change it? Where do we want it to go?
And how do we keep the things that are important to us?
Right.
So that's the other thing about the future, is it's not necessarily changing. Sometimes it's understanding what we want to grab onto and keep and preserve. So that was a piece of our engagement too, was asking people, what do you value about Winona? What do you love about it? What makes it your home? And those are the things that we don't want to change drastically. Or in some cases we want to improve, but we want to make sure that they stay.
Well, what are some examples of things they wanted to stay or wanted to improve on? Do you have any, or?
Yeah, definitely. And this was all shared out with the community back in February.
Right.
And I think I was on KQAL about it too. So, so a couple of the things were really related to Winona's environment. I think a lot of folks across the board resonated with, I love the bluffs, I love to go to Lake Park, I love the river. Like, those pieces of where we are so unique, and that's really what draws a lot of people here and keeps people here. So when we're thinking about the future, with these things being important to us, that's a really good thing to know, because then we can keep an eye on our environmental impacts to the things we love.
Right. So with that plan of, like, okay, we want to preserve this, and I'm sure this might be obvious, but I just want to, like, show the connection, to show, like, how much you guys can actually change things. When people said we want to preserve the bluffs, we want to preserve the environment, what did that simple saying of the community, saying we want this, what occurred that showed that their voices were heard?
I can't speak to that right now because it's in the draft, and so it's not my place to speak
Oh, so
about
it's
it.
not...
Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry.
No, that's all right. No, but it's going to be coming out really soon, and so that's the city's project, and so you can keep an eye out for that and see what was decided on.
Well, I'm sure the residents of Winona are going to be very invested to see what's going to happen with their home and what they want to see. But before we end this interview out, I'd ask you, is there anything you want our audience to hear?
Yeah, definitely. We've got our annual campaign going on right now. So through December 1st, we're looking to raise $10,000 to support our mission. And there's a bunch of ways that you can get involved and give. You can go to our website, sign up for our newsletter, or follow us on social media. And we're just honored to be supported by over 100 local donors. And really, that signals an investment in our work, and we're just so grateful to our community for believing in us and standing behind us. So I'd welcome additional people to come on board for that. We also just launched our impact report for 2022, so that tells all our stories from this year. We've got a really cool page that's by the numbers, so all the different numbers of people we talked to, how many events we held, and things like that. So if you're interested in learning more about our work, you can also request an impact report, and we'd be happy to tell our story.
Well, I would like to thank you so much for doing this interview with us, and I hope Engage Winona continues. I'm sure everyone really likes the idea of getting a chance to get more involved in our community.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much.
Thank you again to Marcia Ratliff for being on today's Culture Clique. For more about Winona and the surrounding community, tune in to Culture Clique here at 89.5 KQAL, online, on our app, or on your favorite smart speaker.
Creating cultural awareness and understanding. You've been listening to Culture Clique. Support for Culture Clique is made possible by the Minnesota Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund. Culture Clique is produced by KQAL-FM on the campus of Winona State University. For more information, look us up on the web at kqal.org. And thanks for listening to Culture Clique.